Yo, what is going on, my lovely subscribers and newcomers? This is my Monday video. Now, I told you guys in my last video, my Q&A with Weston, that I was going to be uploading every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and sometimes on Saturdays, just so that I have a schedule so that I can upload to you guys and everything. But today's video is going to be a little troll. Now, I was trolling this kid because one of my friends, he's younger, and he says that he's my dad and everything. And they believe us, and we're going on with a story of like how I became his dad and why I'm so young, and that how he is so young. So I'm gonna go ahead and join the party back, and I'm gonna tell them all to shut up, that I'm about to start up and tell the story. Alright, so the story of how that little motherfucker got made, the little worthless piece of shit, was like, I was going to school, right, and I was younger, and there was this car that followed me, because I used to have to walk to school, and now I drive and everything, obviously, I'm 17, and I would walk from my house to school, because my parents had to work and everything, and my sister, she didn't drive or anything, and we would walk to school, and there was this car that always fucking followed us, and it was just weird. Like, we thought that that car was just making sure we got to school okay, so because once we got onto the school property, it just turned around and then it would leave, and just we thought that car was just following us to make sure we got to school okay and everything. One day my sister gets sick and I have to go to school by myself, so I'm on my way to school walking, and that car just ended up coming up, and it was some lady, and I mean, now that I think of her, she was pretty fucking hot, and she like asked alright, but she just asked me if I would like a ride to school, because, you know, it was like about a block down the road from my house, and I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I got in the car, she turned around, I was like, this isn't the way to school, and she said, yeah, I know. Then she like locked the doors, and I was like, wait a minute, and it just kind of went on from there. We kept going. I was like, this isn't the way to school. The school's the other way. Or where are we going? She was like, well, I'm going to take you to go get ice cream first and everything. And surely enough, we went and we got fucking ice cream. And then we got in the car and started going the wrong way again. And as we're going the wrong way, she was like, so how would you like to come to my house and see my dog? And how would you like to come to my house and play a few board games and stuff? I was like, yeah, sure. And surely enough, we went to her house, and then she was like, it's just right down in the basement. My dog's down there. I got the games down there. There's this TV. You can watch some TV if you want. So I would go down there, and then all of a sudden I walked down, and there was just all kinds of like just cages and like chains and stuff, and I was like, what the fuck? And it was just chains, like piles of chains on the ground. There was like big giant like human cages, and since I was so young, I didn't know like what the fuck was going on. So I was like, okay. So I just went and I sat down on the floor. There wasn't a couch or anything. She walks down and she locks the door as she's coming down into the basement, and she grabs me and she puts me in one of the cages, and she ended up like going fucking crazy, you know, like there's no way to explain it. Like, she wouldn't let me out of the cage. There's no way for me to get out of the cage, no matter how hard I tried, and I would just try and I'd try, and I couldn't, so I just gave up, and I was down there for like 2.5 weeks just starving, and then finally she brought me some food. I was like, oh my god, thank you, and I literally was saying, thank you so much, you're amazing, because she brought me McDonald's, and I was like, yes. So I was sitting in there, I was eating my burgers and my fries, and then I was like, hey, can I have a drink? She was like, oh yeah, I got you a sweet tea, I forgot it upstairs on the counter. Let me tell you what, her house is nice. Well, was nice. And she went, got me my sweet tea, I was drinking it, and then all of a sudden, another week goes by, and then she starts feeding me dog food and shit, and I have to survive off dog food, and she, you know, like them little hamster food thing, or water things that they put water in, she got like a human-sized one of those, and I was just sitting there and I had to like drink out of that, and it was just weird. And later on, it would just turned out to her crazy because her husband left her later on, and like I didn't know anything about it since I was so young. Not like I was just 8 years old, not knowing what the fuck was happening, that I was completely forgot about my family and everything. I like adapted to living in a cage like a dog. And now that I think of it, I think that me going to meet her dog turned into me being her dog, you know? And yeah, like one day she was like, okay, come on, let's go out upstairs and play. And it was the first time I got out of the cage. Like I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I didn't know what I was doing. I got out and we was walking around. She took me to her room and she literally tied me down to the bed. And she said, we're just gonna play doctor. So I was sitting there and she ties me down and I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden she strips down naked right in front of me. I was like, what's this? She was like, oh, I'm changing into my doctor's suit. And then eventually she never changed into it. And I was like, where's your doctor's robe? And she was like, oh, well, when I play doctor, I don't use clothes. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she was like, and neither are you. And she literally ripped my clothes off. Like, she didn't take them off. She didn't cut them off. She ripped them off. And I was sitting there, and then she ended up, like, getting on me. And she started off nice and slow, just, like, rubbing on my dick. And then she was just rubbing it. And then eventually, you know, as my dick was, like, starting to get harder and harder, and she started to suck on it. And then, like, eventually, she ended up getting on top of me, and she just started lusting, like, thrusting on my dick, on top of me. And I started getting harder and harder, and she started moaning and moaning, like, oh yeah. And then eventually, she just put it in. She started riding, just bouncing on me. As I'm tied down to the bed, not knowing what's happening, like, I didn't know what sex was, I didn't know what any of that was. And she ended up fucking me, and I came inside of her. And then eventually she sent me home after I had sex with her. And later on she ended up finding me as I was walking to school again, and it was like 2 months into her being pregnant, and she was like, hey, I'm pregnant. And I was like, what's that? And she was like, I'm having your baby. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, well, when you came inside me. I was like, wait, what's came? She was like, you know the stuff that came out of your dick? That went inside me, and now I'm pregnant and I'm having your baby. And I was like, oh, whoa, no way, I'm gonna have a kid. And now I'm stuck with little shithead fucking crazy over here. And like, I was like, oh, okay. And Melt's, he's my brother and shit, and I didn't know him because, you know, I was gone. I come back and he was 2 years old, and everything blew past, and she found me and stuff, and I was like, okay. And then she was like, so I think we should try to make us work. I said, what do you mean? She was like, we should date and stuff. So we started dating. I'd see her after school. I'd tell my parents that, oh, I'm gonna stay home and study, or stay at school and study a little bit. Oh, I'm gonna stay after school for this activity. And I would go off and I'd see her, like, we'd get in the car, we'd go to her house, we'd hang out, and she'd drop me back off at my house. And then one day my parents asked who that was. I was like, oh, that's my friend's sister. And like, this was a almost everyday thing, and they got suspicious, and they ended up finding out about us. And it was about her being 4 or 5 months pregnant, and my parents found out and sued her and all this shit. Somehow she didn't end up going to jail. Oh, bank. Yeah, somehow she didn't. Her lawyer was so good, I guess. And it was just that we were just sitting there in the courthouse, and when she had her baby, and well, our baby, and she was like, well, I don't want the baby, so he can have it. Then my mom was like, well, we don't want it, it's your baby. So she ended up fighting, saying that she doesn't want it, and since she raped me, that was a part, like, it went against her, like, that she was crazy. So we had to get rid of her, she had to get rid of the baby, and now we're stuck with Crazy. Crazy is literally downstairs in my house right now. And yeah, he is my son. And later on, about a year and a half ago, we went and found her. Like, we found her on Facebook and everything. We acted like somebody, like we catfished her and told her to meet up. And she met up with us, and everybody's lagging out. Alright. So, like, we met up, and she got out of her car. She seen us, and she was like, do we know you? Because it was years and years later, you know. I'm 17. When she last seen me, I was 8, almost 9. And she ended up being like, do I know you? Who are you? And I was 16 at the time. Now I'm 17. And, like, she was like, what's going on and all this? I was like, nothing, I just seen you on Facebook and stuff. We were the people who were texting you. She was like, but that doesn't look like you, because, you know, it was a group of us. And she was like, well, which one was texting you? And me, since I'm the one she raped, I said, it was me. She was like, what's your name? I said, my name's Eli. She said, oh, okay, well, what are you guys doing? And we're like, nothing. We were wondering if we could just go back to your house and hang out and stuff, you know, talk. You seem real cool. So we go back to her house and everything. And my friend, he's 19 now, was 17 at the time. He was like, hey, how about we go back to my house? And he lived way out in the country. He lived by himself, everything, because, you know, he moved out early because he was making dough and shit at his job. So he moved out of his house, and his parents were finding him. He lived way out in the country. So we take her out there. We started hanging out and stuff, and then eventually we get Melts. Ryan, that's my brother. Like, she stands up to leave, and he gets on top of the pool table, jumps off, and just RKOs her right into the chair, knocks her out, and she ends up standing back up, like, confused, like, dizzy. And then me, I hop on, I start choking her, and then all my friends ended up getting, like, a baseball bat, a lamp, a pan, and we all just started beating on her, and she ended up dying. But we didn't touch her head because we didn't want, like, the cops to think that she got beated, you know. And then my friend, the country one, he knew how to make a noose and everything, so we made one, hung it up, and we hung her. And we had my sister make a note, because it was a girl, so that it's a girly handwriting, and she made a note and everything, and like a suicide note. And that the cops found out, like, we took her back to her house, hung her at her house with a suicide note, and it said that she felt bad for leaving me with the kid, and that she felt bad for raping me and keeping me away from my family for months and months, and that she couldn't take it anymore, and she killed herself. And since she did that, like, raped me and was considered crazy, the cops thought that it was actually real. But wait, I'm not done with the story. You haven't really talked much, but as we were beating her, she was screaming and she was yelling, oh my god, what's happening? And she was just screaming, help, help, help. And she was confused on what was going on. She was confused about everything. And we got her into the car, right? And this was the sketchy part. We get her into the car. Like, she's dead at that point. We get her into the car, and we're driving back to his house. We're going down the back road. The cop stops us, and because my friend was speeding because he wanted to get there fast, and he ended up asking us a bunch of questions. Luckily, he didn't want to search the car or anything. And, like, he was talking, and we're trying to, like, get out of there so that we can get back to her house and everything. So we get back to her house, and we ended up, like, having to secretly get her inside. We were sitting in the car, like, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna get her inside without anybody seeing? Because she lived in a neighborhood, and we didn't want anybody seeing us, like, oh my god, they're carrying a dead body in there and everything. So we went back to his house, got a couch, cut the couch open, put her in it, and we started carrying it inside. And then they were like, one of the neighbors came out saying, what are you guys doing? And we were like, she just bought a couch from my friend's parents on eBay, so we're just bringing it on over so that she can use it. And they were like, oh, okay. And there's a fucking dead body in it, you know, like that's where her body was. And so we got all the way up to her house with her dead body in there, and like we start hanging her and everything. And then we ended up taking the couch back out because we didn't want to leave any evidence, right? So we take the couch out and we go and we set up like the couch back in his truck. And the neighbor came out. She was like, wait, I thought you were taking that truck into her house, and because she bought it. And we were like, oh, well, she didn't like it like she thought she would and everything. And like we were all scared, like we were tripping, and we were scared, you know, like somebody was catching on. And she was like, oh, okay, well, it doesn't really matter. I never liked her anyways. She's a registered sex offender and all this. We were like, yeah, that's kind of what we heard. We were a little scared about going in there. But she said that she didn't like it like she thought she would and everything. So we were just going to take it back and sell it to somebody else. And she was like, okay, well, have a nice day. Be safe and watch out for the sex offenders and crazy people. And we were like, oh, we will. Trust us. And there's the story. She hung herself down, and like she didn't hang herself. We hung her in her basement and everything. Well, so what happened was when like it was like a week and a half later, and we thought we were clean. We thought we were good, and we were sitting there all at my house talking, just playing some games and shit, you know, just chilling. And we had a cop come knock on our door, and my son crazy answers it, and he was like, hello. And they were like, hello, is Mr. Bourne here? I said, yeah. Well, he said, yeah, and he took him to my room. We were all sitting in there, and he told us that she killed herself and everything like that. We were so scared, like acting like we didn't know what happened, acting like this and that didn't happen, and we were just sketched out about it. And he eventually ended up taking us in, asking us questions, and we got so lucky because we were so close to getting busted of killing him. Because one of the cops even said, I'm pretty sure that you guys killed her. But then it turns out later on that he was just messing around with us, that he was just asking us questions because that was my son's mom, you know, and he was just asking about her and shit. Like, it was fucked up, dude. But thanks for, like, actually letting me tell you the story, dude. Most people would have cut me off and stuff, but it was fucked up. Yo, you there? Is he here? Alright, well, somebody invite him back. Well, invite him back because my controller batteries are dead and I've got to go and, like... I haven't been saying. Yo, alright, so that's the story, bro. Yeah, dude. It was sketchy, bro. Like, we didn't know what was happening. We didn't know what was going on. Like, it just happened, dude. So, that's the story of Crazy and my son and how it happened. Well, we live with my parents because I have to take care of not just myself, but of my shitty ass son, who shouldn't even be on Earth. Because some stupid crazy bitch decides to rape me when I was really young. I'm surprised you never heard about it on the news. It was on the news for a while.